20 Powerful Secrets to Negotiate Your Salary and Win. Introduction. The Art of Salary Negotiation. Most people don't negotiate their salary. They accept the first offer, afraid that pushing back might cost them the job. They leave thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of dollars on the table, simply because they don't know how to ask for more. But what if you could negotiate with the confidence of an FBI hostage negotiator? What if you could use psychological tactics, strategic questions, and proven persuasion techniques to command the salary you truly deserve? Chris Voss spent over 2 decades as the FBI's lead international hostage negotiator. He's dealt with terrorists, kidnappers, and criminals, people who had zero incentive to cooperate. And yet, he got them to comply, confess, and surrender. Now imagine using those same skills to negotiate your salary. Sounds powerful, right? That's because it is. Voss discovered that negotiation is not about logic. It's about emotion, psychology, and leverage. Whether you're negotiating a job offer, a raise, or a promotion, the principles remain the same. This audiobook will teach you 20 powerful salary negotiation secrets inspired by FBI negotiation techniques. You'll learn how to make your employer say a number first, so you don't undervalue yourself. How to use mirroring and tactical empathy to make them feel like giving you more. Why the phrase, "How am I supposed to do that?" can break resistance. And how to turn a lowball offer into a high one without sounding aggressive. By the end of this audiobook, you won't just be prepared for salary negotiations, you'll dominate them. You'll walk into every conversation calm, strategic, and in control. Your salary isn't just a number, it's a reflection of your value. Most people let their employer decide their worth. But the best negotiators know that salary is always up for discussion. So, if you're ready to stop settling and start negotiating like a pro, hit the subscribe button and let's get started. Your future richer, more confident self is waiting. Part 1. The Psychology of Negotiation. Negotiation isn't about numbers. It's not about who has the better resume, the strongest argument, or the most persuasive facts. It's about psychology. It's about understanding the hidden forces that influence decision-making, the emotions that drive choices, and the subtle cues that can turn a simple conversation into a powerful agreement. Chris Voss didn't negotiate with terrorists by overpowering them with logic. He didn't talk kidnappers into releasing hostages by demanding compliance. Instead, he used human nature to his advantage. He made people feel heard, understood, and in control, even when he was the one guiding the conversation. When it comes to salary negotiation, the same principles apply. Your goal is not to convince your employer to pay you more through facts alone. Your goal is to guide the conversation in a way that makes them feel like giving you more is their idea. Because when people feel like they are in control, they are far more likely to agree to your terms. The first mistake most people make is assuming that salary negotiation is a rational discussion. They believe that if they just present enough evidence, industry salary comparisons, performance metrics, years of experience, the employer will recognize their worth and agree to a higher salary. But that's not how people make decisions. Studies show that decisions are driven by emotion first and justified by logic second. If you want to successfully negotiate your salary, you have to master the emotional undercurrents of the conversation. You have to make your employer feel comfortable, confident, and, most importantly, in control of the process. Secret number 1. Emotions control negotiations. Chris Voss teaches that the person who feels the most in control is the one who makes the most concessions. This means that your job in a negotiation is not to overpower the other person, but to make them feel like they are steering the conversation, even when you are the one setting the direction. Most people go into a salary negotiation on the defensive. They sit nervously, waiting for the employer to reveal the offer, and then they react. They either accept it or scramble to justify why they deserve more. This puts them in a weak position from the start. But the best negotiators know that control comes from how you frame the conversation. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak, and even the way you pause after hearing an offer all send subtle psychological signals that influence how the other person responds. Instead of reacting, stay calm. Speak slowly. Let there be silence. People are naturally uncomfortable with silence, and they will often fill it by justifying their position, or even making a better offer before you say a word. When you receive an initial salary offer, don't rush to respond. Instead, simply repeat the number back in a neutral tone and let them talk. Another way to control the conversation is by asking calibrated questions, a strategy Chris Voss used in high-stakes negotiations. Instead of making demands, you guide the employer toward your desired outcome by asking questions that force them to think and justify their stance. For example, instead of saying, "I need at least $100,000, ask, "How did you arrive at that number?" A direct demand can feel confrontational, but a well-placed question shifts the responsibility onto them. It forces them to explain their reasoning and gives you room to maneuver. Secret number 2, the power of mirroring. One of the simplest yet most effective negotiation techniques Voss teaches is mirroring, repeating the last few words the other person says in a calm, curious tone. It sounds too simple to work, but it taps into a deep psychological need, the need to feel heard. When people feel heard, they become more open, more cooperative, and more willing to find common ground. Imagine this scenario. Employer: the starting salary for this position is $80,000. You: the starting salary is $80,000? Then you pause. That pause is where the magic happens. More often than not, the employer will start explaining their reasoning, revealing whether there is room for flexibility. They might say something like, "Well, that's the budgeted range, but there might be some wiggle room depending on experience." With just a simple mirroring technique, you've now opened the door to further negotiation. Mirroring also creates a subconscious bond between you and the other person. People naturally like and trust those who sound like them. By repeating key phrases, you subtly encourage them to talk more, reveal more, and feel more connected to you. This works in any negotiation, but in salary discussions, where the employer often expects resistance, mirroring disarms them. It keeps the conversation moving without confrontation and creates an opportunity for them to justify a higher salary without you having to push for it. Secret number 3, tactical empathy wins more money. Chris Voss calls tactical empathy one of the most powerful tools in any negotiation. It's the ability to make the other person feel understood, not just on a logical level, but on an emotional one. Most people go into a salary negotiation focused on what they want: more money, better benefits, a higher title. But the secret to getting what you want is understanding what your employer wants. Every hiring manager, HR representative, or executive has pressures you don't see: budget constraints, company politics, deadlines to fill positions. If you can acknowledge their concerns before they even voice them, you create an immediate connection. Instead of just saying, "I'd like a higher salary," use tactical empathy to frame your request in a way that makes it easier for them to say yes. You might say, "I completely understand that budgets are tight, and I truly appreciate the offer. At the same time, given my experience and the impact I can bring to this role, I'd love to explore a compensation package that reflects that." What does this do? 1. It acknowledges their reality, making them feel heard. 2. It subtly positions your ask as a reasonable request rather than a demand. 3. It keeps the conversation collaborative rather than adversarial. This is how great negotiators operate. They make the other person feel like they're working together toward a solution, rather than being pressured into a decision. Salary negotiation is not a battle, it's a dance. The person who understands the psychology of negotiation will always have the upper hand. When you control emotions, mirror their language, and use tactical empathy, you won't just ask for a higher salary, you'll make them want to give it to you. Most people don't realize how much power they have in these conversations. But the truth is, your salary is always up for negotiation. The only question is, are you willing to use the tools that will get you more? Part 2. Building leverage before the negotiation. Most people think salary negotiation begins when they sit down for the conversation. They wait until the employer makes an offer, and then they react. But that's not how master negotiators operate. Chris Voss teaches that negotiation starts long before you ever sit at the table. The key to winning isn't just knowing what to say, it's having leverage before the conversation even begins. The best negotiators don't wait for opportunities. They create them. Secret number 4. The no-pressure approach to negotiation. One of the biggest mistakes people make is putting all their hopes on a single job or promotion. When you feel like this is your only option, you negotiate from a place of fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of losing the opportunity. Fear of asking for too much. Chris Voss says, "He who has the most to lose, loses." If the employer senses that you're afraid to walk away, they have all the power. But if they believe you have other options, suddenly, you become more valuable. This is why you should always be exploring multiple opportunities at once, even if you have your heart set on one. If you're negotiating a job offer, keep applying elsewhere. If you're asking for a raise, take meetings with recruiters. If you're positioning for a promotion, build relationships with competitors in your industry. When you have options, your mindset shifts. You're no longer hoping they say yes. You're evaluating whether this opportunity is good enough for you. And that confidence changes everything. Secret number 5. Getting them to justify the offer. Most people feel pressured to respond immediately when they hear a salary offer. They think they need to either accept or push back right away. But expert negotiators know that the first step isn't reacting. It's getting the employer to explain their number. Chris Voss teaches the power of calibrated questions. Questions that make the other person think while giving you more information. Instead of responding to the offer directly, try asking, "How did you arrive at that number? What's the range you typically offer for this role? What flexibility is there in the compensation package?" These questions serve two purposes. First, they slow down the conversation, taking the pressure off you. Second, they force the employer to reveal information. And sometimes, that information opens the door for negotiation. For example, if they say, "We're offering $85,000 because that's what we budgeted," now you know they are working within a set range. But if they say, "That's our starting offer, but we can be flexible," then you've just uncovered hidden room for negotiation. Secret number 6. Creating invisible leverage. Chris Voss often talks about the power of invisible leverage, influence that exists even when the other party doesn't realize it. In salary negotiations, one of the strongest forms of invisible leverage is your next best alternative. In negotiation terms, this is called your BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Let's say you're negotiating a job offer, and the employer offers you $90,000. If you have another offer for $95,000 from a different company, that's your BATNA. You now have leverage. But even if you don't have another job offer, you can still create invisible leverage by positioning yourself as someone in demand. If you've been contacted by recruiters, mention it subtly. If you have competing offers, let them know without being aggressive. If you're highly sought after in your field, remind them of your value. The key is never to sound desperate, but always to appear in control. Employers don't want to feel like they're competing against themselves, but they do want to know they're hiring someone valuable. When they believe others see your worth, they are far more likely to increase their offer. Secret number 7. The pre-negotiation setup. Chris Voss teaches that how you frame the conversation before the actual negotiation starts can determine the outcome. One way to do this is to use an accusation audit, a technique where you preemptively acknowledge their concerns before they bring them up. For example, before discussing salary, you might say, "I know hiring budgets can be tight, and I completely understand that companies have to balance a lot of factors when making offers. That said, I want to make sure we're aligned on the value I bring to the table." What does this do? 1. It disarms them. They don't feel the need to defend their budget. 2. It positions you as understanding and collaborative rather than confrontational. 3. It sets the stage for negotiation without making them feel pressured. The best negotiators don't just react to what's said in the moment. They shape the conversation before it even begins. Secret number 8. Knowing what they value. Most people go into salary negotiations thinking only about the number. But the smartest negotiators think beyond salary. They understand that companies have different priorities, pressures, and motivations, and they use that knowledge to craft a deal that benefits both sides. Chris Voss teaches that if you can uncover what the employer values most, you can use that as leverage. Some companies prioritize long-term retention. Others care about filling a position quickly. Some are focused on keeping payroll costs low, while others care more about performance incentives. Before negotiating, ask yourself, is this a fast-growing company that needs to attract top talent? Are they hiring under pressure and trying to fill the role quickly? Do they value stability, leadership, or specialized skills? By understanding what they care about, you can frame your request in a way that aligns with their goals. Leverage is not about tricking the other side. It's about positioning yourself as someone too valuable to lose. The people who negotiate the best salaries aren't always the smartest or most qualified. They are the ones who prepare, create leverage, and approach the conversation from a position of strength. Most people wait until the last minute to think about negotiation, but those who succeed start long before the offer is made. They set up their leverage, build demand for their skills, and control the narrative from the start. Because in negotiation, the person with the most power isn't the one with the best argument. It's the one who prepared the best before the conversation even began. Part 3. Mastering the salary conversation. By the time you sit down for the salary negotiation, the groundwork should already be in place. You've built leverage, positioned yourself as a valuable asset, and gathered intelligence on what the employer values most. Now comes the most crucial moment, the actual conversation. This is where most people get nervous. They worry about saying the wrong thing, pushing too hard, or ruining the opportunity. But master negotiators like Chris Voss understand that the key to getting what you want isn't aggression, it's control. The way you structure your responses, the words you use, and even the pauses between your sentences can determine whether you walk away with thousands more or leave money on the table. Secret number 9. Making them say a number first. The biggest mistake people make in salary negotiations? They throw out a number first. Chris Voss warns that when you reveal your expected salary first, you risk 2 major pitfalls. 1. You could undersell yourself. If the employer was willing to pay more, you just cost yourself thousands. 2. You could price yourself out. If your number is too high, they might end the conversation before you have a chance to establish your value. Instead of giving a number first, let them reveal their range. If they ask, "What salary are you expecting?" resist the urge to answer directly. Instead, redirect with a calibrated question. "I'd love to hear how you typically structure compensation for this role. What's the budgeted range for this position? How does your company approach salary for someone with my level of experience?" By turning the question back on them, you gain valuable information while keeping your negotiation position strong. Secret number 10. Handling the first offer like a pro. When the employer finally reveals their offer, your response is critical. Most people either accept it immediately or react too strongly. But Chris Voss teaches that the best negotiators create hesitation. Your first move? Pause. Silence makes people uncomfortable. When they give you a number, repeat it back slowly and neutrally. $85,000? Then wait. That silence forces them to fill the gap. Many times, they'll justify the number or even offer more before you say a word. If there's room for flexibility, they might say, "Well, that's our initial offer, but we're open to discussion." That's your opening. Secret number 11. The "that's not what I expected" technique. Chris Voss teaches that one of the most powerful negotiation tools is a slight, controlled disappointment. If the offer is lower than you anticipated, don't react aggressively. Instead, express mild surprise in a calm, thoughtful way. Say, that's lower than I was expecting. I appreciate the offer, but I was hoping for something more in line with my market value." This keeps the conversation open without shutting it down. It also subtly pressures them to reconsider the offer. Most employers expect a counteroffer, and this technique creates the perfect setup for one. Secret number 12. The accusation audit, removing objections before they arise. In negotiations, people naturally resist being pushed. Chris Voss used a technique called the accusation audit, a way to remove objections before the other side even brings them up. For salary discussions, this means acknowledging concerns before they have a chance to use them against you. For example, if you sense that budget constraints may be an issue, say, "I know that budgets are tight right now, and I really appreciate the offer. I understand that you have to consider multiple factors when deciding on compensation. Why does this work?" Because once you acknowledge their concerns, they can't use them as an excuse against you. You take away their ability to push back while keeping the conversation positive and solution-oriented. Secret number 13. Using the magic phrase, How am I supposed to do that? One of the most powerful phrases in negotiation, according to Chris Voss, is a simple question. How am I supposed to do that? This phrase puts the pressure back on the employer. It forces them to reconsider their stance without making you sound aggressive or demanding. Imagine this. Employer, the highest we can offer is $80,000. You, how am I supposed to do that? Then you pause. Most of the time, they will feel compelled to offer an alternative, add benefits, or reconsider the number. This phrase turns their limit into a problem they have to solve. And when people start problem solving, they become open to new solutions, including giving you more money. Secret number 14. Labeling, turning yourself into the ideal employee. Chris Voss teaches that labeling is one of the most effective ways to shift perception in your favor. Labeling means identifying what the other side values, and then reinforcing that you embody those traits. In salary negotiations, this can be used to make the employer see you as a critical asset. For example, if you know they value leadership, you can say, "It seems like you're looking for someone who can take ownership and drive results." Or if they emphasize company culture, say, "It sounds like you want someone who will not only perform well, but also fit seamlessly into the team." What does this do? It subconsciously aligns you with what they want. The more they see you as the solution to their needs, the easier it becomes for them to justify paying you more. Most people walk into salary negotiations hoping for the best, but hope isn't a strategy. The best negotiators shape the conversation, control the flow, and use psychological tactics to guide the outcome. They make the employer say a number first. They create hesitation. They use strategic disappointment and calibrated questions. They remove objections before they arise. And most importantly, they negotiate with confidence. Because salary isn't just about money. It's about recognizing your worth and making sure others recognize it too. Part 4. Advanced Persuasion Tactics. At this point in the negotiation, the employer has made an offer, and you've responded strategically. But now comes the part where most people make mistakes. They either give in too quickly or push too hard. Chris Voss teaches that real negotiation power comes from patience, precision, and controlling the flow of conversation. It's about using psychological triggers to make the other person feel like giving you more is the logical and natural choice. Secret number 15. The power of silence. Inexperienced negotiators rush to fill silences. They feel awkward when there's a pause, so they start talking, and often, they talk themselves into a lower deal. Chris Voss says that in any high-stakes negotiation, silence is your best friend. When you make a counteroffer or challenge an offer, say your piece and stop talking. Let the other person process. Let them feel the pressure of the pause. For example, if you say, "I was hoping for something closer to $100,000, and then pause, they will feel compelled to respond. Many times, they will either justify their offer or, in some cases, improve it before you even push further. The key is to get comfortable with silence. Let it work for you. Secret number 16. The rule of 3. Getting them to say yes 3 times. Chris Voss discovered that when someone verbally commits to something 3 times, they psychologically start to believe in the decision. This is called the rule of 3. The trick is to guide the employer into reaffirming your value multiple times throughout the conversation. For example, after they say, "We can offer you $90,000, you can use a series of calibrated questions. 1. Just so I understand, you're saying $90,000 is the best you can do? 2. So it sounds like, with my experience and skill set, this is what fits within your budget? 3. I just want to make sure we're aligned. If I accept, you believe I'll be making a significant impact at this level of compensation?" Each time they say yes, they become more committed to justifying their decision. If there is room to improve the offer, this technique nudges them toward making a better one. Secret number 17. The Black Swan Effect. Finding hidden leverage. One of the most powerful ideas in Never Split the Difference is the concept of the black swan effect. A black swan is an unexpected piece of information that completely changes the negotiation. In salary talks, this could be learning that another department has a bigger budget, discovering that a key competitor is trying to hire you, realizing that the employer is under pressure to fill the role quickly. Most people never uncover black swans because they don't ask the right questions. But skilled negotiators know that even in a salary discussion, there are always hidden factors at play. To find them, ask open-ended questions like, what are the biggest challenges in hiring for this role? How does my role fit into the company's long-term strategy? What kind of flexibility do you have when structuring compensation? Sometimes, the employer will reveal critical information without realizing it, and that's when you see opportunities others miss. Secret number 18. Adding non-monetary perks to the deal. Salary is important, but it's not the only thing you can negotiate. Many companies have limited budgets for base salaries, but can offer value in other ways. Chris Voss emphasizes that real negotiators think beyond the obvious. If an employer can't increase your salary, you can still negotiate. 1. Signing bonuses to bridge the gap. 2. Stock options or profit sharing to benefit from the company's growth. 3. Additional vacation time for work-life balance. 4. Remote work flexibility to save commuting costs. Instead of saying, I need a higher salary, you can say, if we can't adjust the salary, is there flexibility in assigning bonus or stock options? This keeps the negotiation open and often leads to additional benefits you wouldn't have received otherwise. Secret number 19. The odd number strategy. Why precision wins. Chris Voss teaches that precise, non-round numbers feel more intentional and well-researched. If you're countering an offer, instead of saying, I was thinking $100,000, try saying, based on my research and market comparisons, I believe $103,750 is more aligned with my value. Odd numbers feel like they were carefully calculated rather than estimated. Employers are less likely to push back because it seems like you've done deep research. Secret number 20. When to walk away. Chris Voss teaches that one of the most powerful positions in any negotiation is the ability to walk away. The moment the other side senses that you need the job or the raise, you lose leverage. If the offer doesn't align with your worth, if they refuse to meet you halfway, be willing to leave. But here's the key. Leave the door open. Instead of saying, I can't accept this, say, I appreciate the offer and the opportunity, but this compensation package doesn't reflect the value I bring. If anything changes in the future, I'd love to stay in touch. Many times, employers will circle back with a better offer after realizing they're about to lose you. Salary negotiation isn't just about getting paid more. It's about recognizing your value and having the confidence to ask for what you deserve. Most people accept whatever they're offered, but those who master these techniques, who understand leverage, psychology, and persuasion, walk away with higher salaries, better benefits, and more respect. You don't have to be an FBI negotiator to use these strategies. You just have to be willing to prepare, stay patient, and ask for more. Because in the end, the biggest difference between those who earn more and those who don't is simple. The ones who earn more ask for it. Part 5. Closing the deal and getting paid more. By now, you've navigated the salary negotiation with strategy and confidence. You've made them say a number first, handled objections with tactical empathy, and used persuasion techniques to guide the conversation. But a negotiation isn't over until the deal is closed. And the way you handle the final moments can determine whether you secure the best possible offer or settle for less. Chris Voss teaches that the closing phase is where many people lose their nerve. They get anxious, rush to accept an offer, or fail to reinforce the commitments made. But expert negotiators know that closing a deal isn't just about agreement. It's about making sure every detail is in your favor. Secret number 21. Securing the verbal commitment. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that once the employer verbally agrees to a number, the deal is done. But verbal agreements aren't binding, and if you don't solidify the commitment, things can change. Chris Voss recommends getting the other side to confirm the agreement multiple times. This reinforces their psychological investment in the decision. After they agree to your salary request, you can say, great, so just to make sure we're on the same page, you're offering $105,000 with a $10,000 signing bonus, correct? Once they confirm, follow up with an email. Written confirmation prevents last-minute backpedaling and ensures the details are locked in. Secret number 22. Negotiating the start date for maximum leverage. Most people don't think of their start date as a negotiation point, but timing can impact your financial position. If you're between jobs, negotiating an earlier start can minimize financial gaps. If you're currently employed, delaying your start can allow you to collect a final paycheck while beginning your new role. Chris Voss teaches that even small negotiation wins reinforce your control over the process. Something as simple as saying, "I'd love to start on preferred date. Would that work for you?" can lead to an arrangement that benefits you financially. Secret number 23. The post-negotiation reinforcement. People remember how a negotiation ends. If it ends on a tense note, it can affect long-term relationships. But if you close with confidence and gratitude, you reinforce goodwill. Chris Voss teaches that reinforcing their decision can make them feel good about giving you more. After the deal is finalized, say something like, "I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm excited to bring my skills to the team, and I know we'll do great things together." This final impression ensures that they see you as a positive investment, someone worth every dollar they just agreed to pay. Secret number 24. Keeping the door open for future raises. Just because you've closed this negotiation doesn't mean you won't negotiate again. In fact, the best negotiators set themselves up for future raises during the initial salary conversation. Chris Voss suggests anchoring future discussions by saying, "I'm excited to prove my value, and I'd love to revisit compensation in 6 months based on performance." This does two things. 1. It makes your employer aware that a future raise is expected. 2. It sets a timeline for the next conversation, so you don't have to bring it up later. By planting the seed now, you create an open path for future salary discussions without it feeling like a sudden demand. At every stage of negotiation, the most successful people don't just accept what's offered. They shape the conversation, influence decisions, and position themselves as high-value individuals. Most people leave money on the table because they're afraid to ask for more. But you don't have to be one of them. You now have the tools, strategies, and mindset to negotiate like an expert. Use them. Prepare, practice, and execute with confidence. Because in the world of negotiation, those who ask for more get more. Part 6. Conclusion. Most people go their entire careers accepting whatever salary is offered to them. They don't realize that every paycheck, every raise, every bonus is negotiable. But those who understand the art of negotiation, those who prepare, strategize, and confidently ask for more, earn thousands, even millions more over their lifetime. By mastering these techniques, you've taken the first step toward never settling for less again. Negotiation isn't just about getting paid more. It's about knowing your worth and making sure others recognize it, too. Most people don't ask for more, so they don't get more. But you're different. You now have the skills to earn what you deserve, maximize every opportunity, and build the financial future you want. So take action. Don't wait for permission to get what you're worth. Go out and negotiate for it. If you found this audiobook valuable, make sure to share and subscribe for more insights on negotiation, career growth, and financial success. Leave a comment sharing your biggest takeaway and how you'll apply it in your next salary negotiation. And remember, in negotiation, the people who ask for more get more. It's time to step up, use what you've learned, and start winning the financial game.